GingerGM.
Good morning and a good Monday to you all. I think what I'm going to do in future, I'm going to try to schedule my releases to certain days. So on a Monday, I think will be longer time limit day, so it's a bit more regimented. Trying to get myself organised. Well, I'm playing a longer time limit game. As usual, I'm going to go through my thought process. I'm playing 1844, hopefully not a cheat. And the game has started, e4. I thought I'd try the Sicilian. And now my opponent has played a line which I myself have played on numerous occasions. This little a3 move with the intention of going b4 wing gambit style. Now, luckily I know this line quite well, and in my opinion the best way to meet this is not by accepting the sacrifice, but by fighting for control of the long diagonal. So I'm going to play the move g6 here, and the idea is that I'm going to hold off the move b4. And my opponent has now decided not to play b4. I mean, one thing I don't like doing, generally as a rule, if my opponent offers me a sacrifice earlier on, unless I'm incredibly well prepared, I don't want to go into a position he's comfortable with. So why accept the sacrifice early? I mean, after the move b4, I could have gone knight c6 and grabbed on b4. I could have gone e6 and grabbed on b4. But why play into his hands? I'd rather get the upper hand myself. And now the way the game's going, I'm very happy, because we've got to ask ourselves, what is the relevance of the move a3 here? I don't actually see any relevance of this move at all now. And we've got a normal kind of dragon position after I capture on d4, knight takes, but he's played a3. So I seem to have gained a useful tempo here. Now, I want to develop my knights. Which knight should I develop first? If I go knight c6, that is probably okay. Knight f6 might be a trickier move for my opponent to handle, because if I go knight to f6, if he tries e5, I've got this little check picking up a pawn, so I give him the opportunity to blunder. But let's just check. Knight f6, knight to c3, and then can I play knight c6? And if he takes, b takes, e5 there, knight d5, knight takes d5, pawn takes, queen takes. I have to sacrifice a pawn. I get a bit of compensation with rook b8. I don't know. I mean, knight c6 puts pressure on the centre immediately. Both of these moves die. I don't know which is best. I kind of feel like knight f6 is the move I want to play, so I'm going to go with my instinct. This is the move I want to play because it means I can castle in one move. It's as simple as that. So I'm just going to stick with this line. And now, after this move, knight c6 is clearly critical. And again, I think I'm happy to play into that line we just analysed, where my opponent takes on c6 and goes e5. Because after knight d5 and everything exchanges on d5, this is a well-known idea, rook b8. I've got a lot of open lines. I've got a bishop coming to b7, his e5 pawn is weak, and it looks like very decent compensation to me in that position. So we've got a dragon now, Sicilian. I thought I'd try the dragon because I normally play the French, but the dragon is my other opening I play. Again, you can buy the 2-part dragon DVD set from the GingerGM shop for a very cheap price. I think there's about 16 hours of tuition on those DVDs, and it will take you through the dragon entirely. But the main idea in the dragon, really, you get some very interesting positions, very double-edged stuff. It's very positional. I mean, if white doesn't castle queenside, you should always be at least equal. And well, we're trying to see some typical middle game plans as this game develops. Okay, so my opponent's gone bishop e3. Now, one of the main ideas in the dragon is to play d5. This is a move that is often a very strong possibility. Now, just instinctively, I don't want to play it here because I haven't castled. So I'm just going to check if I castle with the idea of playing d5. Will he then take here? B takes, go e5. Knight d5, knight takes, pawn takes, queen takes, rook b8. And then my rook is even attacking that one. He can take on a7, rook takes b2. And what do I think instinctively about that? Bishop d4, rook takes c2. It should be okay for me. I mean, let's play it. I mean, I'm just playing normal moves. Before I'm going for anything, I'm giving him the opportunity to change the pace of the game. I could have gone d6 and stopped all those ideas, but I'm trying to get the maximum out of the position, meaning that I think he should be punished here because he's played the move a3. This move a3 is now just a complete waste of time. So rather than playing d6 would be a perfectly okay position for me, I'm going for the maximum from the position, meaning that I want to play d5 in one move. And now I don't think I need to require thinking about this too much. I know instinctively again that in the dragon, if you can play d5, you should play this move. This is one of the main pawn breaks. You need to know your pawn breaks when you're playing an opening. You need to know your opening pawn breaks, your middle game pawn breaks, and in this position, as long as d5 is not going to lose a pawn, I'm going to play it. And this is actually a theoretical position if the pawn's back on a2 and white's king is castled. So again, this must be an improvement for me. And now I have ideas of going e5. I have ideas of taking on d5, and this position is now, I've got equality. When you're playing with the black pieces, I mean, it was Karpov who first, I mean, maybe someone else did, but I first heard Karpov when he was world champion. I was reading something about his thoughts when he was world champion. And what Karpov said was that when he plays at top level, when he plays with white, he always, and this is the Russian way of thinking, the Russian school of chess, he always tries to get an advantage with the white pieces, but when he plays black, he just tries to equalize. And then he will aim to outplay his opponents from an equal position. So as black, equalizing you should be happy with. And here I think I've at least equalized with my central structure. I've got more pawns in the center, and if I can contain and not lose a pawn in the center, as a general rule of thumb, it's better to have more central pawns than wing pawns, because the center is the main battleground, and if you control the center, you can control the right hand side, the left hand side. So in actual fact, if anyone's better here structurally, I would say black is better because I have this nice D pawn. So now I'm thinking what I can be trying to do. I think my main idea would be to go E5 and then something like D4, use the center. I mean, if he goes, okay, so he's taking on D5 now, and here, what is the most natural move? It's certainly pawn takes. I mean, knight takes does make some sense. Knight takes is a more tactical move because I'm trying to open up my bishop, and maybe I should be considering knight takes because he hasn't castled, and again, because he's wasted time in the opening, I can aim to punish that. So knight takes d5, attacking his bishop, and I really love to swap my knight for this bishop here. Positionally, that would be a great thing to do, because then my dark square bishop is in charge of the board. So let's have a look. So knight takes d5, and if he plays knight takes, pawn takes, does that help me to swap knights? I kind of feel like it does, because my bishop becomes stronger, but it's a hard one to say, because if I take with a pawn, very nice position, I've got two central pawns, and also then, if we think about my future plans, I can try to go e5 and d4, and then his knight's looking very silly on c3, so I'd imagine both moves are right. But let's have a look. Knight takes, maybe he goes bishop d4, and then I go e5. This is a normal way to meet that. So knight takes, bishop d4, e5, bishop c5, and then do I have some tactics with something nasty on c3, giving up the exchange? If I have to play rook e8, I'm not such a big fan. And if queen here, there, bishop takes f8, well, it's a bit murky there. And I have this rule which I've said a lot of time in these long play games. If you have two options, one of them is very simple: pawn takes, two central pawns, nothing tactical to worry about, compared to the other option, knight takes, and it was getting a bit messy. Go for the simple option. The simple option is nearly it's going to be the right one to play. Okay, so my opponent is trying to blockade the move e5 by putting his bishop here, and maybe he can take there. I doubt that's an issue. I mean, even if he wins this pawn, my bishop would be too strong. So I'd love to try and get this e5 move in, because then I'm going to gain a tempo on his bishop. e6 is okay, controlling this one, but again, I'm really trying to get the maximum out of the position. So I want to be playing e5 here, trying to prepare this move, because that will really be testing my opponent in as much as I can. But if I play rook e8, again, let's see, okay, if he takes here, bishop takes, queen takes d5, I take on c3, knight takes here, I take on b2, my bishops are controlling the board, bishops in an open position, very nice. But after rook e8, maybe he will play f4, and then he gets this grip on this square. I don't see how I'm going to play that move then. So other ways to try and do it, well, e5 straight away is worth considering. Bishop takes rook e8, but then I don't believe that's sacrifice. I shouldn't be complicating it really. No, there's no reason. What about I move my queen to one of these two squares, because that stops f4, because then I can eliminate f4 and I control this square and I aim for this. So let's have a look. So queen d6. Now if he takes on f6, let's say I go queen takes f6, and it's a pawn sack line. Knight takes, I take on b2, and knight takes e7, king here, but his king is still there. I kind of like that his king's in the middle. My bishop is very good. I've only given up a pawn. So here takes, queen takes, and now so knight takes, queen takes b2 instinctively feels like it should be good for me. I think that's at least okay. Rook b1, maybe his best move. Queen takes a3, and then he castles, and I've got an extra. No, I haven't got an extra pawn. Yeah, it's okay, but it kind of feels like I should be getting something quite big from this position here. So that's why I'm spending a bit more time. I mean, rook b8 does leave this pawn hanging. So rook b8, b4, but then he weakens his long diagonal. Rook b8, b4, queen here. Okay, well, let's have a look. Queen here takes, queen takes is the other line. Queen takes d5. Do I have enough compensation there? Something like, it's got to be great compensation. Rook b, yeah, I mean, instinctively again. Okay, I'm going to play queen d6. This is more of an instinct move, really. I mean, I'm trying to get the maximum, and my opponent can take on f6, but even if he somehow wins a pawn, I think when he loses this bishop, as I've said before, if I can exchange this knight for this bishop, it's often worth a pawn. There's lots of open lines, so that favours the bishop, the bishops here. So he's castled, and that's also seems to have played into my plan. So b5, what's he going to do there? Is he going to go knight b5? Is the tactical idea with that? Queen b8, bishop c5, and then rook d8. I've got some lovely pawns there, and bishop e7 should be all right for me, I think. Okay, well, I think saying A, I've got to say B. I've got to go e5 here, and this forces knight b5. Otherwise, my opponent's going to lose a piece. You know, my opponent was about to play f4, and had he played f4, I would never have an opportunity to play this e5 move. So I've got to play it, and I've just calculated this line with knight here, when I can even maybe move my queen to e7 is a better idea, keeping control of this square. So knight b5, queen e7, and then his bishop has to move, and if bishop c3, I've got to watch out for bishop to b4. That's something I've got to keep my eyes open for there. So where's the best square for my queen? I've got to keep an eye on this, and I've got to keep an eye on some knight jump. But if I go here, which does also keep an eye on this, so queen b8, and this is my initial thought, bishop c5 looks forced, trying to come into d6, rook d8, and all I need is one move to kick his pieces away, and I've got a lovely position. So then bishop e7, rook d7, attacking his bishop. It looks very good for me. My queen and my rook seem to cover everything. So it may look like his pieces are getting active, but I kind of think this might be a little bit superficial on his part, because give me a move like a6, give me some other moves, my centre will then play itself. If I can push his pieces back, my centre will play itself. So the only line I'm looking at, bishop c5, when he wants to put a bishop on this square. So then I go rook d8, cover that idea. And then if he tries to go active again, bishop here, I go rook d7, attack his bishop, I cover everything. I'm going to play a6 next, and he can't get in. So let's just go with this. There's no point thinking too much. Rook d8. I don't want his bishop to come to this square, so this has to be the right move. Also, my rook could be quite decent on this square because it protects this pawn, and it does also line up against my opponent's queen. Always good to put a rook that lines up against your opponent's queen, even if there's not a lot of potential of that coming into effect straight away. Later on, there's a lot of latent potential, meaning that, you know, for example, even here, my opponent may have thought about playing c4 at some point, but now c4, you know, is asking for me to take. Not now because I blundered my rook, but at some point, you know, you've got to think long-term strategies where your pieces are going to be good. All I want to do here is play a6, force his knight back, and then I can even go d4, force that knight back again, and I'm going to take over the board. My opponent, two pawns like this, they control so many central squares, meaning that all of these green squares here are under my control. My opponent can't get he can't grab the center. You know, it's like a battle. He who has the upper ground controls the battlefield, and he who controls the center. And here the pawns are this lovely blooming color I've made there, isn't it? A little bit of blue, a little bit of green. The pawns are controlling this area of the board, meaning that as long as I can contain his pieces, my position's strategically, positionally lovely. I mean, it's, you know, when you're playing chess, you know, I keep saying tactics are so important, but it's worth bearing in mind that tactics normally only work if positionally you're doing well, if you've got a good position, if you've played good foundational chess. Tactics are not going to work if you've played a horrible positional game. They won't deserve to work. Tactics are really the accumulation of positional gains, and this game so far has been about me, the main thing, taking over the center of the board with my pawns. And the likelihood is later on in the game, the tactics, when they occur, you can't really have a game of chess without tactics. When they do occur, are going to be very, very much in my favor because I've got all the positional trumps. Center of the board, my opponent's pieces superficially placed, I will kick them back soon. And he can't really get, I mean, what plan has my opponent got? I mean, as well as thinking my own plans, I'm trying to stop my opponent's ideas constantly. I'm stopping his piece coming here. While I'm talking, I'm noticing that if he puts a bishop here, I will push that one back, gain some more space. If he puts a bishop here, I'll push that one back. If he tries some f4 move, I may just motor on, worst case scenario. I've even got, now I'm noticing, if I want to play a bit more tactically, ideas of knight e4, attacking his bishop, activating my knight. This must be a lovely position, but as we've seen before, I've blown a lot of lovely positions in my life through silly slips. So I'll try not to do that now. Now, while we wait for him to move, like I say, what I'm going to try to do when I have the time is schedule the releases of my videos. So, for example, okay, let's just shut up Simon for a minute. Well, I'm going to go rook here. Am I not? He's going to take. Is he going to try something with bishop to this square? No, because his knight hangs. So I have to play this move because I don't want him coming to d6. And I calculated this. You've got to trust your calculations, and you know, don't be scared. You've got to have faith in your calculations, and yeah, I mean, I have faith in it. So well, yeah, like I said, I'm going to try to make Monday long play game day. Tuesday, I don't know, like Blitz day maybe. I'll try to do, you know, it might take me a while to work out which days things will be best suited. But if you've got any suggestions how you'd like to see me improve the channel, then please let me know, and I will get around to answering a lot of your comments on YouTube. I do look at your comments, but I just don't always have time to answer it, and it's the same that goes with emails and messages. I mean, I have so many good intentions of answering all your messages, but then something else comes up and I just forget to do it. So it's well worth, if you're trying to get through to me, I don't mean to be rude, but it's well worth, you know, trying a couple of times sometimes, and I will eventually get back to you. And I apologize if you try to contact me and I've either forgotten about it or I haven't replied. I'm very sorry. I don't mean to be rude. Not to, well, sometimes I do, but only to specific people, those who deserve it. You know who you are, mother. Okay, I won't say it. This is a child show. Okay, so my opponent has eliminated his bishop for my bishop. That is a trade that I think suits me, because my bishop, I have two bishops and I have a very good center. My opponent's defending this pawn. Now a6 is very natural, knight c3, and then d4 would be the kind of move I want to play, but then his knight comes into this square attacking my bishop. He's also got ideas of this in some positions. Rook b1 is just a defensive move from my opponent, so here I'm just going to play, I mean, I'm not, again, I've got a lot of good moves here, but I'm just going to play this move, bishop g7, because my idea now is twofold. I want to play a6, knight c3, d4, and then if the knight comes in here, it doesn't attack my bishop, and I might be able to play f5. Also, if he plays bishop g4, I might be able to play f5 straight away. I can play f5, so it just even squeezes his pieces a little bit more, and it allows my f pawn to come up when I've got 3 pawns. Now I do see some people in the comments say it's when I'm describing things, I say the name of the squares very quickly, and not everyone can follow that, and I apologise for that. You know, in that line I was saying the name of the squares. It's very hard to explain ideas when I can't move the pieces during a game without saying the name of the squares. I mean, I try to put arrows like I just did then, so you can try to follow my thought, and it's something you'll get better at. You know, it's something you need to practice at home, you know, learning this grid system. For me, I mean, I was quite seriously dyslexic at school, and when I was learning chess, and I learnt at a very young age, it took me a long time to work out the lettering and the grid system, probably something to do with dyslexia. And you know, and it is important for learning videos like this, I guess. Okay, anyway, so let's move on. So my opponent has played this move. Now again, a6, knight here, d4 looks very natural. Let's have a look at this knight e4 move again. Well, then if I play f5, yeah, I want to be a little bit tactically careful, because so I'm thinking a6, knight here, d4, knight here, f5. Well, then I'm a little bit concerned about knight g5 with bishop c4 check ideas. So I don't need to rush this a6 move. This move is not running away. Now, a move I quite like, again, instinctively, is something like queen b6, because my queen doesn't look great. And then I want to play bishop b7, and my 2 pieces then are gaining better squares. So queen b6 just improves the position of my pieces. He can't really go bishop here, e4. And it just looks like a good move, doesn't it? Put my queen here. It allows my rook later on to come into the game. I just want to, before I do anything too much, before I start doing pushing in the center, I want to get all my pieces, so these 3 guys, into the game. My other pieces seem quite good, but these pieces not so much. So he's trying to stop this move in some cases. So I think I'm just going to continue standard developing. Now my bishop comes in, and next move I can play my rook to one of the center squares. Then all my pieces are then boom in the center, and it looks very nice to me then. I'm not rushing with a6. I mean, I could have played it then, because now he's actually has to move his knight to the rim, so it would have been a good time to play a6 there. And he's now going to try to play this move, getting a bit of play going over there. So I think I will play a6 now. I don't want to drop this pawn. And if a5, I'm going to put my queen somewhere nice and central like this, and I'm pushing his pieces back. This is what I said earlier. I'm taking control of squares. Now b4, I would have played that as white as well, because white will try to get a passed pawn. But whenever your opponent plays a pawn move, and also yourself, you've got to realise that nearly every pawn move creates a weakness. And you've got to ask yourself, when your opponent plays a pawn move, what does it weaken? And in this position, it weakens c3, this pawn here. So I could aim to take advantage of that. And one move I'm liking a lot now is e4, when my bishop is lining up there. So let's have a look. So e4, if he plays c4, I can play d4. And we get a very interesting march of pawns. He can go pawn here. And then I can play a move such as... His pawns are getting quite dangerous. So do I want to allow that much play from his pawns? Well, I think so. I mean, I think it's time to do something active here. What else is he trying to do? He's trying to go here and b5. I think I want to play this. I've got my pieces. I mean, I could have wasted one more move by playing my rook in the game, but I think it's time now. I've got very good coordination to use my center. My central structure. There has to be time. You know, I've got to do this. So he has gone c4 as predicted. This is the move I'm slightly concerned about. But I've got to have faith that my pawns are stronger here, and I'm going to go d4. So he will play c5, and maybe I should have stopped this. Maybe I should have played rook d8 first, because then he could never have played this move, because I just had pawn takes pawn. So here, I'm thinking now queen c6, because if he pushes his pawn, I take on c5. The problem with queen c6, though, is that when he defends this pawn and plays this move, he's going to gain a tempo. So queen c6, rook to c1. And then something like d3, b5. And tactics, b5. Now, if I take on b5, pawn takes b5, queen over somewhere. Or do I have pawn takes here? Pawn takes e2. Whew. Pawn takes c6. Pawn takes d1. Queen should be good for me. So queen c6. I'm kind of a bit in two minds about this move, queen c6. But I think I've got to have faith in my calculations so far. I'm having faith that d3 is stronger than b5 with those basic calculations I was doing there. But I think in hindsight, isn't it lovely hindsight? If I'd played this again, I should have played rook d8 to stop his pawn getting as far as this. This position may still be good for me, but I you know, why allow him any play at all? It seems a bit silly to do that. So let's have a look. So rook c1, I've got to calculate this because it's either going to be winning for me or losing. It's one of those situations where it's either good or bad. So rook c1, d3, b5. I take here, so I open up my rook. Pawn takes e2. If pawn takes here, I take his queen and get a queen. That's good. So he has to go queen takes e2, and then in that position, I move my queen e6. He plays c3, for example. Then I have rook takes a3, pawn takes d7, queen takes d7, and as long as I don't get back ranked, I should be alright. So my opponent did not like that idea, so he's played a much more passive idea. And now, well, d3 is screaming to be played here. He's also got his knight coming here. I mean, I think I want to play e3, but then bishop f3 comes, And unless I can sack my queen, I can only do that if there's some rook coming to g5. I don't think it's going to be good. Let's play d3. I mean, this forces his bishop to go to a worse square, so I can only gain from playing this. Now, I love to play e3 here. e3 is really, and if bishop here, I'd love to sack my queen. Pawn takes e2. Cool. Can I do that? I mean, that's really quite tempting. When if he moves his rook, I take on f3, and I don't know. That's a really interesting line. I mean, it's a beautiful line, but maybe I should prepare this first, because what's he threatening? He can't go here because I take on c5. Now, if I get my rook to this square, that's going to be a lot stronger e3, because then my rook can come over here with mating ideas. And also my rook... Okay, I've got to play a bit quicker. I like this move because... because now I have... If he ever goes b5 and c6, I'm not losing a piece. And here, e3 is a very tempting possibility. e3, bishop here, queen takes, pawn takes, bishop takes f3, threatening rook here. But then he has knight takes e3. Okay, not so tempting. What about getting my last piece into the game? Rook to d8. Again, okay, he's going to play knight here. It's a bit annoying. Really want to play e3. e3, bishop here. Queen takes, pawn takes. Now, tactically, I really want to make this work, but then e2. It's the kind of thing I want a bit more time. e2. Rook moves, bishop takes here, knight here. Shall I just go for it? And it looks so interesting. I don't think I can resist it. Okay. Oh no. Well, he can go knight takes e3 now, and he's defending this square. Okay. We don't need to go too crazy. I'm a bit annoyed that he's got this knight coming to a5. I missed this one. I don't want to lose this bishop. Okay. Other ideas. Queen e6. Do I really want to exchange queens? Queen e6. His position is actually, it's certainly improved from what it was. And I'm thinking now. He's got me thinking. So queen to somewhere else to avoid this move. Queen to this square. Queen to c7. And then if knight, and then I've got bishop d5 ideas. That's where my bishop wants to go. Okay, this is looking more promising. Move my queen so my bishop can get here. So where's the best place to move my queen? Well, if I go queen f6, he can go b5. I want to keep my queen on this c5 pawn to stop b5. So this move is the move I'm going to play, because I want to keep this bishop. I want this bishop to stay on the board. I don't want him to swap his knight for this bishop. I like this bishop. I like my two bishops, and I want to centralize my bishop now. This is a good move, I think. Now, also, I'm never worried about the knight coming to d6, because I'm probably just going to go rook takes d6 there and give up the exchange, because then I get rid of his active knight and his active pawn. It's got to be good for me, and my bishops are going to come into life. Remember, I've always got this d pawn, this beautiful central pawn. So I think this is a good move, and my threat is bishop d5, very strong threat. If he moves his knight to a5, I play in. So he's come here. Okay, now the first thing I'm thinking now is I want to play f5, f4. This is my first thought. Now, I can't play it now because it's pinned. He can still not play this move. He's going to play it soon, but he can't play it now because I take on c5. But if he plays here and then goes here, he's going to get a lot of play. But I think it is got to be time to play a move. I've got to play quicker, like here. And I just want to play, I want to use this pawn. I want to throw this pawn up the board. And how scary is this move? I'm hoping I'm going to have some way to deal with it. Like rook c1 is certainly his best option now. Rook c1 with the idea of playing pawn on. And how am I going to stop that? Well, rook c1, f5, b5, f4, c6. Gets very complex. Take on e3. Maybe he can even take on e3 there. I have time to move my rook because I'm pinning his rook on c1 in some situations. So let's have a think about that again. So rook c1, f5, b5, and now maybe rook to a good square such as f8 or d8. Then if c6, he's also coming with b6. So maybe I should go rook to b8. Then if c6, I can play f4 maybe. And then b6. It's a really crazy position there, isn't it? I mean, this is a very tough game. I mean, I think it become clear my mistake was to allow him to get his pawn here when I could have just contained his play. He's played it, and I can't stop this pawn coming now. Which I'm a little bit annoyed. I've done this to myself. Now, what about rook b8, b5, takes, bishop c6? That's a good idea. That's a very nice idea, because I want him to go b6 because then I blockade it. That's a really nice idea. Yes, I like that a lot. So I'm now restraining. The idea is if b5, pawn takes, bishop c6, because his one plan here which will give him play is c6. If I can stop him playing c6, then I keep my bishop alive and his counterplay just dribbles away. If he goes c6 here, okay, so now I'm going to do my plan. I'm going to take here, and my idea is bishop here. This is my subtle idea. And the point is, I want him to play b6, because if he plays b6, his pawns then become useless, because they are what we call blockaded. My bishop is on the opposite colour square to those pawns. They can't move, they become completely irrelevant. Then I can push through my own plan. What I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to do this plan which, you know, is really, if you can do this, you're going to win every game of chess you can play, if you can do it to perfection. Restrain your opponent's ideas, push your own ideas. And now I'm very, very happy again, because I've stopped his play. So let's just make sure he can't get any other play. Is his knight going to come here and here? Got bishop d5. So queen, where's my queen best placed? I just want to keep it a nice central square. Let's put it here, and I control everything. I've stopped it. Oh, maybe he can play rook here and rook here. Should I have allowed that? I'm not too worried about it, but maybe I shouldn't have walked into it. I've got rook b7 then, but yeah, okay, he's finding all the correct moves to annoy me here. And again, maybe I shouldn't have allowed that. Now I've got rook here, and queen takes. Okay, I'm going to play now h5 because I want to give myself the h7 square in some situations. So if he does play rook a7, I've actually got queen takes. Is possible. Queen takes, pawn takes, rook takes here, bishop takes there. No, I don't need to do that because it's okay. So I'm going to stick with my plan. I'm going to keep my blockade. And the point is, the reason I played h5 is I've got king h7 if he checks. And the other idea is when I play f5, f4, his knight can also not come to the g4 square. So I've also taken away the possibility of my opponent. I'm trying to get my break in slowly but surely. Okay, so he's taken here. Now he's playing very tricky chess. Now queen takes has to be correct. Now is he going to play again another move? Okay, he's gone queen here. Now what's he trying to do? He's trying to come to a7. I'm not too worried about that. Now it must be time for me to do my own plan. Let's do it. So I'm going to go here. I'm blockading everything. His knight, I think he should have played knight c4 last move with the idea of coming over here, because now I want to get this move in. He might play g3. Yes, he does. And what do I play here? Well, h5, h4 is a useful move to try to weaken his king a little bit more. Maybe even something like king h7, just to put my king on a safer square. d2 is very possible. I'm going to start with h4. this must be a useful move later on down the line. If he ever takes it, I'll play f4, and that's going to be great for me, and it gives me some chances to attack his king in a later situation. And I'm just, while I'm playing these moves, I'm just looking all the time about what my opponent's trying to play. Now if he plays queen a7, I think I will just take that queen and play bishop f8 when my bishop comes around. Now I think it's time just to play, d2, because that gives me more tactical possibilities. I've got then rook d3 ideas, and of course my pawn is always now just one square away from queening, so this is probably a useful move. I like getting my rook here. It'll be a useful pin. Have I missed though knight to c4? Well, if knight c4, he will then be trying to get his knight over here. Okay, he's played this one, and he's all credit to my opponent. He's playing very well. I really want to transfer and just attack his king. Can I do that at all though? Rook d3. How does that help? Pawn here, trying to get queen d7 in and coming over here. What about queen d7 straight away? Queen d7, and then if he ever moves his knight, I have f4 and I can start a big attack. Let's do that, because I've still got a very good blockade on this b7 square. Got to be a bit careful of my time, and this gives me opportunities at some moment to swing my queen over to this area. And also now g5 and f4 becomes possible, because my queen is defending the f5 square, so it looks like a decent move. And also I defend d7, so it does multiple things. Now what does that do? Does that do anything? It doesn't threaten this pawn, does it? No. Does it do anything else? Not that I'm worried about. So g5, even bishop to this square, but g5 looks natural. Now what about f4? Okay, time's running out. I'm going to play g5. g5 seems to be only a move that can help me. Now, if he ever plays queen a7 now, things get quite murky, because he's got his knight coming to this square. I want to play queen takes a7, pawn takes a7, but then this pawn is annoyingly weak, but I should be okay. So he's coming with his knight, and now where's that knight going? Nowhere. He's trying to take this pawn, is he not? But surely I can get through to his king now. What about e3? e3 I'm going to play quickly, because I now need to start playing more tactically, and I want to get my queen here and come in on the light squares. So he's now taken here. So now I'm going to play this move, f4. Yes, it's got much more tactical, the position all of a sudden, but I'm relying on the weaknesses of his king. And if he comes back to c4, okay, I need to take here. I need to play quick. My queen has two ways into the attack. The pawn I'm down is pretty irrelevant at this case in time, and this is looking very good because I have queen g4 coming into the game, and his time is very low as well, another benefit. So he's come back here now. Queen g4 must be correct. Pawn there, bishop takes. He has no checks. No, he has no checks, so I don't need to worry about that. So of course I will come in with the queen. Another good move there may have been bishop takes, but the threat is even stronger. Now f3 actually may defend. Queen takes f3, rook takes d2. Rook takes d2, queen takes d2, bishop d4 check, queen takes d4 check. That is very annoying, but I can play this move first. He still has no checks, and now h3, because he can't take on d4, and h3 threatens to just get rid of this knight. But do I have an immediate win here? It kind of feels there might be an immediate win. Unfortunately, rook takes and bishop here check doesn't work, because like I said, that is check. But I think Harry is basically King Harry in this game, and this looks good. His only move is rook f2, I would imagine, and he's found it again, the only move. But do I now have rook here takes queen? No, I don't. I've got to move my queen. And why not take his bishop, which I could have done before. but now is an even better time to take it. H3 I like because we're using Harry. Harry is landing, and my bishops, this is what I'm saying, my bishops are totally awesome pieces, and I'm a piece up now. So okay, so it should be, as long as I don't blunder, and it won't be the first time. So check, let's find a mate, rook here, and now I have a check here. That's got to be good. Let's bring the pieces in to now finish the game off. Do I have any nice beautiful checkmate? Should I be flash? Rook takes to here. No, there's no need to. We don't need to be flash. Queen here, check, wins everything, and this is now going to be game over because I'm going to take this one with check, and that's it. So wow, well, I think a very interesting game there. Yeah, I mean, that had a lot of different elements, didn't it? It had elements of positional play, so building up the center. And then I played the mistake. So let's have a look. So the opening went very well for me. Everything was cruising, and we could see that, you know, all this was perfectly okay. But you've always got to be self-critical of your own games, because you must learn from your own games. One of the best ways to improve at chess is to study your own games and learn from them, whether you win or lose. And in this game, I feel that my one main mistake was playing e4 now, because I allowed this pawn to get to c5. I think if I had this position again, I would play rook to d8, defending my rook here and stopping c4, because if he plays c4, I can simply capture that pawn because my rook here is defended, so he can't play queen takes rook. This also gets my last piece into the game, and it just must be a very good option. Other elements, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he was okay at some point in the game later on, but my bishops will always have more potential. His king was always weaker, and I always had the central control, meaning, like I said before, I could transfer to both sides of the board. There was this interesting gambit line. Now, that was around here. Now, I'd be very intrigued. Let's put it on the computer, shall we, for a change. Okay, I'm just going to have to readjust the board here. And we'll very quickly now just put it on the computer and see what the computer says about that possibility of sacrificing the queen, because I wouldn't be surprised if it was quite good for me. And let me just work out how to do this. Self-analysis. So I'm just going to show you what the computer assessment is as well. So we'll whack that up there. You can see it. And I just wanted to analyze this last thing, and that last thing I'm talking about. Let's see, has that come up? Yes, it has. So around here, where you can see actually, you know, the assessment around here, even though I've allowed his pawn to get to this square, I'm doing fantastically well. If you don't know what the computer assessment is, a minus score means it's black's favour, because it always looks at it from the white point of view. -1 is 1 pawn, so around here it says I'm about 2 pawn head start. Now here, the move I was nearly going to play was this move, e3. And I was thinking bishop f3, and now I wanted to sack my queen. Queen takes here, pawn takes here, and in this position I wanted to play e2. And I've given up a queen for a bishop, and I'm coming around with these ideas. Now, again, it kind of goes back to the philosophy that if you've got a good position, why complicate? But there's also artistic ideas in chess, and this would have been a lot of fun, but I don't fully believe it, neither does the computer. Now, let's have a very quick walkthrough. So, how did things go? Well, I'm better here, but not as great as I thought. And around here, this was very important to get this blockade, because you saw for the rest of the game now, his pawns, sorry, no, not rooks, are useless. They can't play. And then as we continue, well, okay, it all seemed pretty good. And this e3 move, you can see the computer gives it pretty much as a winning advantage to me. Okay, so a very interesting game. My opponent played well in places, but I think I always had control there. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do subscribe to my channel if you haven't. That will encourage me to make more videos. So please do subscribe. It's one way of really helping me. And please do like the video as well. That's another way of helping me make more of these videos. The more good feedback I get, the more I can grow this channel, the more content I can put out. So you know, support me, and I'll do give you free stuff. Thank you very much for watching the video, and it's Long Play Monday, and I'll see you all very soon. So goodbye for now, and I'll try to get I'm streaming. Oh, one last thing, I'm streaming later today at 9 p.m. so 9 p.m. GMT. I'll be streaming, so I might see you some of you on Twitch later on. Bye.